When people talk, listen, man, I'm going to raise that red flag.
This narrative, especially after 1 year.
1 year.
One bad year. It's one big splash move. And because I don't think people understand how much cap space we can create.
Alex, I want to ask you, because you're a very humble person.
And I'm never going to be right about anything.
Yeah.
I was right.
What's up, y'all? Wow, that's loud in my ear. Let me turn that down. Hello. How's it going? Sorry, guys. I haven't been on lately. Got stuff going on with my bar, a lot of cleaning, a lot of meetings, a lot of all that jazz. What this means is I'm not going to finish my road to 2025. It's just so much work, and based on the views, I don't think people really care anyway. So I'm just going to cut it short. So the people that were really interested, sorry about it, but I don't have the time. But I have been following along with the Panthers. You know what makes it really easy to follow along? When what you say just starts happening. Like, we spent all this time predicting all these things based on historical data, and they're just kind of happening. Panthers are in the wide receiver one market. I know it seemed like they weren't, but they are. We just found that out with DK. They are interested in DK. A lot of stuff coming out about their front runners for Javon Holland, and then mixed for Milton Williams. That they're spending money. So it's almost like when I was saying over and over again that, we have a ton of cap and that we're going to go after wide receiver one. And so it's basically what's happening is kind of like I have like all these color-coded buckets that was like, hey, I need these like all filled up with paint of these colors. And then now the paint's starting to go in those little buckets that I just like set aside for what color paint. So I already know that there's going to be paint in those buckets. Right now, the only thing I don't know for a fact is it going to be acrylic paint? Is it going to be gloss? Is it going to be no gloss? So that's my analogy for, is it going to be DK or T. Higgins or Chris Godwin or, they're going to get a wide receiver one. Panthers are going to get a wide receiver one because every third-year quarterback gets a wide receiver one. I can't think of one quarterback that's made it to year 3 and not gotten a wide receiver one. Like a known, like a Pro Bowl wide receiver. I can't think of one. Like either they were already on the team, like Justin Herbert already had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Joe Burrow. They drafted Chase, who ended up being amazing right away. Those kind of guys. Everyone else, actually got a list right here. So you're talking about Lawrence got Ridley, Kyler Murray got Hopkins, Baker got OBJ, Goff got Cooks, Josh Allen got Diggs, Hurts got AJ Brown, Tua got Tyreek Hill, Justin Fields got DJ Moore. Even like Daniel Jones, he got Kenny Galladay. Just Kenny Galladay didn't work out, but like they made an attempt for a 1,000-yard receiver, basically. My thing, if we're gonna go prediction from the beginning, not from the beginning, but for about a month ago, I said it's looking the way it's playing out, and from what I'm hearing, T. Higgins was on the table because I knew that T. Higgins' camp had spoken about Carolina. I don't know anything about what they were, the Bengals and the Panthers were talking about, but I know it was brought up internally in the Higgins camp that was a possibility of a destination. I also heard that DK was a possibility a month ago. Since then, I haven't heard anything about DK. So this whole DK news has been kept real quiet. And as a rule, two rules. As two rules. When you're getting the information, you're getting it probably at least a week after it's happened. Right? So, say DK requested a trade. Well, he probably requested a trade a week before. Those sort of things. Or that's all smoke and mirrors for something else. There's he might have known that they were trading him a long time ago, but from a PR standpoint, it looks better if he requests a trade. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into it. So one, when you're hearing the information is probably come out before then. And let's take the Hendrickson news. Hendrickson just requested a trade today, and we already know that the Panthers have been in contact with the Bengals and other teams have been in contact. They've known this has been discussed already. So anything that's been discussed with DK, they probably discussed it 2 weeks ago. So just as a general rule, you are not getting the information as it comes. A lot of this stuff has already been discussed because think about it. There's been this whole offseason where they can be negotiating contracts and yada, yada, yada. You couldn't see the writing on the wall before. No, for the most part, Seahawks knew who they were cutting. They knew who they were trading. They had to get market knowledge with all of this because before they released Tyler Lockett or before they released any of the guys they released, you had those discussions. Those are ongoing discussions. So we don't really know anything. And I actually hate myself for saying that because I hate when I tweet something out as a prediction and people are like, well, we don't really know anything. Well, no, duh. Nobody knows anything. We're not in the rooms. I don't know for a fact. But we really don't know anything. So all of that said to say this, we were always getting a wide receiver one. Always going to happen. And I think we've known who that wide receiver has been since the combine. And I said it when I was on with OPM, I believe. I believe this is when I said it. I'm going to talk with somebody else too. I think I did it with OPM and then one by myself, but they were just too confident going in there. They were too confident and they didn't bring up receiver pretty much at all. Dan Morgan was asked what his major priorities are going in, and he said outside linebacker, defensive tackle, and safety. Canales was asked, I assume wide receiver one is number one priority for you guys. And he kind of shrugged it off. He said, I mean, it's a priority. I don't know if it's the number one priority. Everything was just kind of guys, we're good. We're good. You're not good. You got a 35-year-old and two unproven second-year guys. I know we all love Coker. I know a lot of people love XL. I like XL. I like Coker. But they both got injury problems. They're both raw. And then you got a 35-year-old with injury problems. And he's 35 years old. And every quarterback, as far back as I can remember, year three gets a number one wide receiver. And if you don't think that DK is a number one wide receiver, I don't know what to tell you, man. Dude has had 900 yards and 5 touchdowns at least every year he's played. Honestly, this is, I don't think this, but the numbers, he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Like I said, I don't think this, eye test-wise, I think he's a top 20 wide receiver in the game. But look at his numbers. They really are on a Hall of Fame trajectory. They're excellent, excellent numbers. And he plays every game. And he's in the right timeline. He's going to be 28. The only two other receivers that fit as far as what these other people, the oldest wide receiver that I'd rattled off to you was DeAndre Hopkins was 29 when he came. It's going to be a wide receiver. It's going to be a top 20 wide receiver, and it's going to be a wide receiver in their mid to late 20s. And the only ones that fit that I could see that would possibly be available were T. Higgins, DK, and to a lesser extent, Chris Godwin. A.J. Brown being very, very, very interesting. Why do I say that? And here's why I say that. And I say it because what happens, you can't pay too, and this is, I don't know what the Bengals are doing. The Bengals are about, we'll talk about Trey Hendrickson in a second. But the Bengals know that you can't keep 2 wide receivers forever. Philadelphia somehow has done it, and the way they did it was brilliant. Like the way they extended as soon as they could Devonta Smith, for way cheaper than he should have gone, and then was able to extend A.J. Brown. But A.J. Brown, I don't think, Howie Roseman's way smarter than I am, was never supposed to see the back end of that contract. I don't believe he was ever supposed to see the back end of that contract because there ain't enough money, especially now that you're paying Bond. You just gave him a big contract, and you gave Saquon a big contract. A.J. Brown's watch out for A.J. Brown. He's very, very, very interesting. I mean, Devonta Smith too, but it's such easier money to swallow. I just don't think that they ever thought they'd see that. I think that A.J. Brown was a play for this year, last year, maybe this year. But the goal was always to move on. And I think A.J. Brown knows that. And that's why he's been a little... I mean, I think that his agent has probably told him. And that's why he's been a little distant, odd. He's somebody I'd watch out for. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing it out there. I don't think that Panthers are getting him this year. But he's a name to look out for because I just don't see... I mean, Howie Roseman is way smarter than I am, but I don't see how you can do that and give Saquon and Bond those contracts. And with Jordan Davis coming down the line, yeah, I gotta look at it again, but I don't know. I'm just is a name to look out for. But let's get back to DK because suddenly the Panthers aren't quiet anymore. Now, when's the last time that this happened where the Panthers were real quiet? Everybody was like, you know, the little stick meme, like do something, Panthers. It was when they were looking for a head coach. Nothing. Ian Rappaport came on TV, said, been really quiet with the Panthers. And then all of a sudden, Dave Canales. Hey, Dave Canales impressed. He's a name to look out for. Granted, they have these other interviews that they have to take. But Dave Canales really impressed. As soon as that happened, I mean, there's a lot more that went into it just because I understand how the interview process works. And when you kind of identified your guy already, everything else is kind of smoke and mirrors. I mean, this sounds bad, but for you call it a Rooney Rule in the NFL. It's DEI for when I worked at Amazon. But you had to go through these processes, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't matter. But the first clue was so quiet, all of a sudden, Canales. Why do they do that? Because they want to put it out into the fandom verse, I guess, and see what the reaction would be. Also to kind of like make it palatable for the fan base. Also to make it fun for the fan base. Fan bases like to feel smart. Fan bases like to see it coming. Fan bases like want a reason to follow these beat reporters and stuff like that. Because if everything is a surprise, then why do they exist? Why do these beat reporters exist? So there's a bunch of reasons why stuff is leaked before it actually happens, right? So what finally happens? Oh, DK. We haven't heard anything about the Panthers and any wide receiver, really. I think we heard a little bit about Slayton and possibly Godwin, but there wasn't like specific reports that were coming out. Now everybody's being leaked DK and Panthers and Seahawks have had conversations, and that DK is probably either going to Panthers, Raiders, or Packers. Okay, so let me throw out that one thing, right? That's the first step that we got last time with Canales. Now, in the most recent report I saw, I think it was Garoppolo. Is that his name Garoppolo? I think I'm saying Garoppolo. Mike Garoppolo. Am I going crazy? It's Garoppolo, right? I think that sounds wrong because it feels like I'm saying Garoppolo. Anyway, Mike Garofalo. It's late, man. I don't know. But he said, I think it was him that said it was Raiders, Panthers, and Packers were the most likely destinations. Well, we know DK. DK came on a show and said, I don't want to play in the cold. He said, I don't want to go to the Patriots, which is probably why the Patriots aren't in on him, because I don't want to play in the cold weather. Well, then you ain't going to Green Bay then either. And you know who doesn't trade for wide receivers? Green Bay. Can you remember, what's the last wide receiver that they traded for? It don't really happen in Green Bay. So then you could say the Raiders. That makes a ton of sense. But what do we know about the algorithm? You need your quarterback. You need your quarterback. You need your quarterback before you start getting these other guys. They got to get a quarterback. They got to get an offensive line. They do have a defensive tackle in Wilkins who got hurt last year. So once they fix all those things, then they can go after their wide receiver. They ain't spending all their money on a wide receiver without knowing for certain who their quarterback is. My assumption is they bring a Bridge in, maybe a Darnold or somebody. He's got decent weapons around him. I could see them getting a Chris Godwin. I mean, they've already said they're a lock to get Lockett. A lock to get Lockett. And they got Bowers. I mean, they would rather, from what it looks like, they got 2 more good years of rollover cap. They got a ton of cap next year. Why wait? Why waste anything? Get your offensive line set up. Get your quarterback. Get your receiver next year. This whole thing about them getting Genty, I don't see that. I mean, I know that Carol. I just don't see them thinking that they're going to do anything big right away. It's like it's a terrible, terrible move to. Hey, we got the Broncos, Chargers, and Chiefs in our division. Let's just spend all our money on DK because he makes us better. But in 3 years, when our quarterback's finally ready, he'll be 31, 32, killing all our cap, and we'll just be bottom feeders. I highly doubt that while they're still paying Devonta Adams dead cap, that they're going to spend 30 plus million on a wide receiver. But you know who DK fits perfectly with is a team that's decided on their quarterback of the future, that has him on a rookie deal. That team will pay a wide receiver. It just makes so much sense. So I think it's going to happen. I thought it was going to be T or DK all along. Then it felt Godwin was kind of in play. But they're way too confident walking in the combine. They don't talk about wide receiver. It's like Fight Club. First rule of Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club. First rule of combine. Don't talk about wide receiver. Because we already got it. We already got him coming. And who would be able to keep that secret better than anyone else? Dan's former, I don't know, what you call him, mentor? Bud? They talk twice a week, 3 times a week, according to, was it Fowler that said that person? I can't remember. I feel bad that I don't remember because I want to give them their props, but they talk twice a week, apparently by, I think it was Person that said it. I think Joe Person said it. So, I think DK's coming. The wild card. Here's one that I think Panthers were aware of, because there doesn't become news like that just right away that we're interested in Hendrickson. Sure, if today's the day that Hendrickson asks for a trade, the whole freaking NFL is interested in Hendrickson. But that doesn't get leaked. We have significant interest in Hendrickson. Why? Because I think it actually lets us go best player available. I think there's two positions, in my opinion, that we were worried about coming in, because I think we knew we had a wide receiver taken care of. I think we knew we're not going to be able to outbid people. Not we aren't going to. I think that we weren't interested in playing the outbid for Josh Sweat, because I think that it's kind of like when players win the national championship and they go higher in the draft because they win the national championship. I think that his price tag is shot up for what he did in the Super Bowl versus what his actual value is. So I think that they're always kind of like not as interested in Sweat. But you got the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year that hits the free agent market. Oh yeah, we're interested, because I think they were concerned about edge, and I think they were concerned about tight end. I think that me personally, I think they were okay drafting edge at 8 and getting a guy like Mason Taylor or Ferguson or Arroyo, somebody later on. So if out of nowhere this excellent edge is, because he's got like 2 or 3 more good years left. I mean, the dude's had 35 sacks in last 2 years. He was runner-up for defensive player. He should have won defensive player of the year. Patrick Surtain, I didn't understand that. But I get, like, we got to give it to a cornerback every now and then. But in a league where we've devalued that position so much and we've increased our value in edge, that a corner wins. Patrick Surtain's a great player. I don't want to take anything away from him, but it should have been Hendrickson that won defensive player of the year. I think the Panthers are going. I think they would break the bank for him. I really do. And who said it? Brant Tillis says it. He said the goal is to fix the team enough to where you can really go into the draft and get best player available. He also said that's very, very unlikely to happen. But we could get to a point where we only need one position. And if we're walking in there knowing that Tyler Warren's sitting right there, I can definitely. So you don't. It's chess, not checkers. You don't make a move because that's the move. You make a move because it's the next move. So if you're not interested in paying Hendrickson or whatever with Hendrickson, we can all agree that at least for this year, he's going to significantly upgrade the defense. And he's going to be probably the best player we could possibly get at that position in football. I mean, he was second in Defensive Player of the Year last year. So you're saying I can just stamp that position, and I can get one of the best players to come in at tight end in ever, maybe? I mean, Brock Bowers, but I'm not a scout, but from what I'm hearing, they're the same. I like Loveland, but if you're saying that this guy grades as one of the top players at this position ever, and I just fixed my wide receiver room with DK, fixed my edge with Hendrickson, Holland's coming. I mean, he's Canadian. He's buds with Chuba, buds with Robert Hunt. It's us for the Titans. I don't see how he doesn't come to Carolina. If not, they really like Morig from. There's a ton of safeties available. We'll get a safety, so we're going to fix that position. And then there's a ton of cornerbacks. I mean, I feel like every freaking day a new cornerback is being released or being a cap casualty or something, we'll get a corner. Like, I'm not worried about it. And all signs are pointing to Milton Williams. But if not Milton Williams, then we have connection with DJ Jones. We're gonna get. We have the money. If you don't think we have the money, then I don't know what to tell you. You don't follow. You don't. This is your first time ever watching me. We got the money. We got money. Like, we'll be fine. But I think what I really think was happening is we came down to the two positions that we didn't think we could fix in free agency, and that was edge and tight end. So it looked like we were going to go edge at 8, and then tight end later on. Like I said, Taylor Ferguson, maybe if Fannin Jr. drops, he ain't. But what if he did? And then running back. I mean, there's going to be 1,000 in the draft. We'll get 1 or 2 or 3 of those. So if we were able to pull off Hendrickson, here's the number one, and then say it's chess. You're playing chess, right? Yo, Evero, you ain't got no more excuses. If you can't do it with this squad, oh, I forgot about linebacker. I don't think it's as big of a need because I mean, you spent a 3rd round on Wallace. You spent a ton of money on Jewell. Those are your 2 middle linebackers. In my opinion, you get some depth at the position, but I don't think that's what you're drafting at 8. I don't think all the Jihad Campbell people. I don't see that. But bro, you can't do it with this squad, man. Then so Hendrickson isn't just Hendrickson. Hendrickson is, I get Hendrickson, solidify that position. I get to take a tight end in the top 8, or Will Johnson, or whatever you want. You open yourself up. I think they would probably take Warren, but you open yourself up if you can get Hendrickson. So that's 2 things that Hendrickson gives you. And the third thing is, Evero, no more excuses. You got a squad on defense. No excuses. So if you're looking at that as your team, just say, this is all hypothetical. And this isn't even me going into other points of the draft. Also, you're going to have to trade some of these picks for these guys, right? I'm assuming we lose our 2nd and our 3rd if we got DK and Warren. If we got DK and Hendrickson. Maybe our 4th too, but we have 9 picks. But say this, you're walking into next year, you got Bryce and DK as your connection, and Warren, one of the top tight end prospects ever, and in your 2nd year of Sanders, so you can run 12 personnel all day long. The end of Adam Thielen's career. Hopefully, Coker and Excel take the next step forward. Your 1,000-yard running back from last year in Chuba, knowing that you have the following year, you sitting there with Brooks coming back again. Whoever you have drafted behind Chuba, I bet they bring Miles Sanders back because I don't think anybody else wants him. So whatever you think about Miles Sanders, I think they're going to have depth at that position. That offense looks pretty good. And then you go to the defensive side. Oh, I'm going to get one of the best defensive tackles in free agency, probably in Milton Williams. I would say that we're probably the front runners. The best safety in free agency in Javon Holland. Cornerback, whatever, I think people are looking way too much into cornerback too. But there's 1,000 of them. They'll sign somebody. And they still have Charles Smith Wade, and people say that he looked good. I don't know. Mike Williams. I don't know. Or Mike Jackson. Mike Williams. They'll get somebody. And then you're still bringing back Ashawn Robinson there. Shy Tuttle is going to be a depth piece. Sorry, guys. He's $6 million in dead cap. I just don't think. Why would you cut him? You're only going to pay him $2 million more. You're only saving $2 million long term. You'll save more of that this year, but basically, if you're post June first cut, that means you have to spread it over 2 years. So you're still eating that dead cap. I think they'd just rather eat it this year. Then it's complicated. I bet they keep Tuttle. Clowney, Wanham came out crazy good. If you have Hendrickson and Wanham, like, and then Clowney, Clowney is just like a cherry on top, I think, after that. And then you got Josie Jewell, played excellent when he was on the field. Trevor, I mean, you got a squad. J.C. Horn, one of the best corners in the league, if he can stay healthy. I mean, you're gonna have to get depth at your defensive backs positions. But that's what the end of your draft's for. That's what your fourth rounds. They have multiple fourth round picks, right? And multiple fifth round picks. I don't know, man. I like it. So I think if you're not into the Hendrickson trade, it's because you're looking at a very narrow viewpoint of it. The value of the Hendrickson trade is the piece. It's a trickle down kind of thing with Hendrickson, if that makes sense if you followed along. It also means that he's going to command a short-term contract. He's going to want an extension, but it's going to be we'd probably extend him maybe 2 more years, I think, and I think that he'd be okay with that. So you're going to think, so if you think of it as a 3-year deal, 3-year deals, we're paying that out in this big chunk that we're rolling into, whereas we're not going to be paying Bryce then. We're not going to be eating into the backloaded DK salary or Milton Williams or those longer term salaries that we're going to be having. Icky extension if we do that. So that cap will be done because I think after that we'll just release him, or we might release him after 2 years. I don't know. But we have the short term cap that is kind of perfect for a guy like Hendrickson. And honestly kind of is. I didn't think so at first because I was thinking that he'd need a 3-year extension on top of what he already had. But I think he's going to be cool with just a 2-year extension. Because he's already talked about retirement before. I think it would be brilliant to get him whatever the cost. And you're not giving a second round pick for him, I don't think. For 57 though? If it's 57, yeah, I'd probably get 57. But most likely it's going to be a third round pick for him. And then DK is probably going to go for a second, maybe a first pick swap, maybe. I don't know. But both of getting those 2 specific guys would chess piece wise be unbelievable gets. And it would automatically put Dan Morgan like in a different stratosphere for me that was able to pull it off. But when people talk, listen, Panthers have been super quiet. All of a sudden, they're in on DK and they're in on Hendrickson. Kind of tells me that they're going to be pretty aggressive getting them. So I've learned not to expect the most from the Panthers, but taking my fandom out of it and being completely objective, and when people talk, listen, I think it's lining up to happen. It really, really could. And it really, really is brilliant. And I really, really hope Dan pulls it off. That's it. That's all I got. I'd be shocked if one of Hendrickson or DK didn't happen, just because they've just been quiet. And you don't leak this stuff to the media unless you have a pretty good idea that you're a front runner. The other guys, like that's their agents leaking that stuff. Like trade-wise, agents aren't leaking that. But free agency, I mean, Panthers are interested in Holland. That's not because we leaked that. That's the agents leaking that. So I don't consider that much. I don't consider that in the realm of when people talk, listen, that's just agents being agents. But for trades, especially when we haven't, apparently If we talked to the Bengals about T, it was kept way under. Like I said, I know that T's people have talked about him possibly being traded and the Panthers possibly being a destination. I got no clue if Panthers and Bengals have talked. When things are leaked, they're leaked for a reason. So I think one of those two happens, if not both. I think that would cause the ripple of we might not get Milton Williams if we get both of those guys, but we get a DJ Jones from the Broncos, something along that. Maybe we don't get Javon Holland, but we'll get Moerig from the Raiders. Those nuances may be a little different if those first two dominoes fall. But we got to be clear, those dominoes will fall before, in my opinion, we start doing anything else, because that'll significantly affect our cap and our timeline that we have our cap for. Because as Mike K always says, we're signing players on multiple timelines. If we get DK and Hendrickson, it's definitely going to change how we view the rest of our roster and how much we're willing to spend. But I believe in Tillis. If nothing else, I believe in Tillis. Not quite there on Morgan and Canales as far as my overall beliefs, but I do believe that they believe they're in good shape because of how I saw them act at the combine. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch. But no matter what, I think we're gonna end free agency in really, really good shape, and I'm excited for once as a Panthers fan. And I just kind of threw a lot out there. This might not make any sense at all when I go back and cut it all up. But if it did, you're welcome. If it didn't, my bad. It's been a little while. It's kind of got rusty. All right. Thanks for listening, y'all. Peace.